Welcome to Living Well with Mary Lou Andre, a 30-minute monthly lifestyle program to help you live better on your own terms by being inspired by thought-provoking leaders who make the world a better place to live. I'm your host, Mary Lou Andre, and today I'm excited to introduce you to serial entrepreneur and Needham High School graduate, Jeff Taylor. Jeff is best known as the founder of Monster.com, a company that helped redefine the online job search. During his tenure, he scaled Monster to 9,000 employees in 35 countries, creating $2 billion in revenue with 2 key patents still driving the industry today. Since then, Jeff has helped build dozens of other companies and is now bringing his experience, talent, and passion for human development together again, launching his latest innovation, Boomband, described by Jeff as a playground for connecting with peers, mentors, and hiring teams who truly want to get to know what you're all about ahead of the hiring process. Jeff holds a BA from UMass Amherst in Human Resources, my alma mater too, and has a certificate degree from Harvard University. Please join me in welcoming the man, the legend, Jeff Taylor. Well, welcome, Jeff. It's going to be hard to cover your whole career in 30 minutes. But I'm going to try. So let's get started with what our viewers will probably find very fascinating about you. You went to Needham High School.
I did.
So
I'm a rocket.
You're a rocket. So tell us some of your best memories of Needham, what you learned at the high school, what you didn't learn at the high school, what you wish you learned at the high school. But tell us how that chapter of your life created who you are today.
Well, I would say our class soccer team went unscored on undefeated for the whole all the way to states, and so I think I learned some like pride and ownership even though I didn't play soccer. I think another thing I learned about Needham, I moved here when I was in 7th grade, and Needham's a sports town and very tight-knit friendship groups, and I moved here in 7th grade not playing sports, and so I think that the first thing I had to figure out was how to fight, and you know, one of the things, not fight like this, but how to you know, kind of build friendships and relationships, and that was hard for me. And there's an expression, the laws of the jungle, and one part of that expression is to blend in to avoid being eaten, and the other part is to stand out to attract a mate. And I always describe my Needham years as blending in to avoid being eaten. So, but I had a great experience, had very good friends, and I grew up on Warren Street, so really very near the studio. And so just driving in today, it's amazing how much it's changed, but also how much it's stayed the same.
Yeah, well, welcome back. We're thrilled that you're here.
Thank you.
So a little bit about the UMass years.
So we both went to UMass. Yeah. So and it turns out we both lived in the same dorm, which was one of the Southwest dorms. I think for me, UMass was where I discovered my strengths, and I think the thing, I wasn't a great student. I was always kind of learned my own way, and so I ended up joining a fraternity, which it wasn't about hazing or anything. It was a great fraternity that was really about leadership and about connections. I made connections with the tour guide service, and I had an opportunity to be a tour guide with a bullhorn on the weekends, which I loved, and then I ran that tour guide service. I was an advertising sales rep for the UMass Collegian, which was the largest largest school paper, like east of the Mississippi or whatever. And so, and then I was the business manager of that paper, and I was president of my fraternity, and I did a freshman survival kit where I created a bag with a Snickers bar and a toothbrush and a bunch of stuff in it, and distributed that to freshmen at exam time. So I was an entrepreneur.
You were an entrepreneur.
And then I was a DJ.
Yeah,
and I was a DJ at the nightclub.
Because I remembered you spinning records back then at Changes.
Yeah.
I remember that. You had a huge personality. And talk about where the music is still a big piece of your life, from what I know of you.
My parents were active in the Needham community. My dad was a professor at UMass Boston, started as a minister, and so I have that part of my upbringing. My mom was a substitute school teacher and then the guidance counselor, had gone back to school.
Yeah.
I watched both my parents get multiple degrees, and they were first generation college grads.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they said to me was, you have the ability to do what you want.
Yeah.
And so music was one of the things that interested me. I played guitar. We were in the Columbia Record Club, and I'm dating myself so bad with this, but we would sit around and stare at these records. We couldn't afford to buy very many of these records, and it was some of the more classic rock bands that you would know today. We would get those records in the mail and then play them, and that was kind of Spotify, kind of Jurassic Spotify, I guess is the way I look at that.
Yeah.
So music's always been a part of my life. I went to UMass. My fraternity needed music. I learned how to DJ, and then I took that DJ skill, went to the local nightclub and tried out and got it, and then I tried out and got a job at a big nightclub down the Cape, and then in Boston. And
which one at the Cape?
So it was called Brothers 4, and it was called Yesterdays in Falmouth.
Oh, I followed you around, my friend.
Then,
I spent many days there. I didn't know that.
And then I worked at the Palace, and then at the Metro, which became Avalon and Avalanche, and so
you were entrepreneurial.
Right.
That's pretty entrepreneurial. Wow.
So I was a club DJ, and one of the things that you would different than today, where a club DJ might work for an hour and be sort of like a rock star or whatever. Back in those days, you were a DJ for the whole night, and so you were responsible for the momentum of a big room of people, and you did that by beats per minute and how fast the records were, and by your choices, and you built your floor. And I always compared many things about being a DJ are very similar to being a CEO.
Yeah,
and
the timing,
the timing, the momentum, how you build your crowd, how you get them to follow you. And so people always laughed at that analogy, but I think it's actually part of the magic in my background is that I did it my way. And maybe I close out UMass by saying I left UMass without graduating with what I thought was about 4 credits to go. I went back. I went to Harvard Business School. Actually, it's a executive ed program that's hosted at Harvard Business School. Got a certificate in 1999, and I was the speaker of my class, and I said I didn't have an undergraduate degree, and that I was going to go back and finish. And so I went back to UMass, was a Bateman Scholar. I went through the University Without Walls program, which is the same program that you went through.
We have a lot of similarities. Interesting.
Put together my own major, took classes, taught classes, and I was graduation speaker at my own graduation in 2001. And so it took me, I don't know what it was, 15 or so extra years to get through that process. And here you are,
and I think a lot of the young people in our audience need to hear that, Jeff. So awesome. So as we segue into the monster years, what does the number 454 mean to you?
That's good. So when I started Monster, we started as a bulletin board, and it was called a BBS. There were no websites at that point.
What's a BBS?
A bulletin board system.
Okay.
And I owned an ad agency that specialized in human resource communications. We placed help wanted ads, was the major thing we did. My clients were starting to say in the early 90s, 91, 92, that the newspaper wasn't really working. And I discovered a bulletin board system that actually there were engineers on it. And so I said, maybe I can build a BBS for recruiting. And I was starting to try it out, and it wasn't going very well. And then Mark Andreessen at the University of Illinois, as a graduate student, developed the first browser, and it was called Mozilla. I was building a bulletin board that couldn't have any graphics, and I had this big idea, a monster idea, and I had drawn these monsters, and I couldn't use them on my bulletin board, but Mark Andreessen could have graphics in his browser, and so I decided to build the first Mozilla site, which there were only 200 Mozilla sites, websites in the world at that point, and by the time I registered, I was the 454.
Awesome, that number is pretty special, I love it. Okay.
So it's about maybe 500 million websites today, just to give you a little bit of perspective.
I love that. So highlights from the monster year. I know that from just knowing you, that Super Bowl ad.
Yeah.
How did that change your life?
Well, so if we move into the Super Bowl, the first thing was deciding that I was going to build a business for job seekers. And it's counterintuitive because employers would pay, but if I built a business for job seekers, I felt that if I got the job seekers to amass together, that the employers would come. And that is exactly what happened. And I was growing and it was working, but I wasn't growing fast enough. And so I had the idea to go on the Super Bowl. Turns out in 1998, we had spent about $2 million marketing Monster. And in 1999, in 90 seconds, 2 ads during the game, 1 ad in pregame, we spent $2.3 million. So I spent the same amount of money I'd spent the year before in 90 seconds at the beginning of 1999. When I grow up, I want to file all day. I want to have a brown nose, yes sir, no sir, anything for a raise, sir. The last vignette was when I grow up, I want to be forced into early retirement. What's crazy is how relevant I think that is today.
It is.
And even with the layoffs happening right now and with the trepidation, I think in many ways that's been a motivation and my career aspirations for my whole life, which was to help people find their way to a better life, to a better job, to a better career.
Yeah, awesome. So learning lessons in the Monster Year, best learning lessons from that, because you've certainly taken what you learned there and have gone forward in some pretty significant ways.
So it's a great question. I think one of the things is if you can't draw it, you can't build it. And that's my expression, right? I drew the first interface for Monster, and from that interface, we built Monster.com. It's basically the interface that millions of people still use today. It's a buyer-seller, what I call the piazza, gathering place for companies and for job seekers. And the idea of putting your resume on, I put the first job posting and the first resume on the World Wide Web. So I have that significance, and now 30 years later, one of the things that I was really surprised about as I did the research is, generally speaking, the competitors are still using those patents, still doing it the same way. We'll come back to that. A couple other key learnings, I think, for me. One is you can build a two-sided marketplace. Everyone says you can't, and that now, with what we've learned, people have realized how hard it is to build, but you have to figure out which side of the marketplace is the hard side. So I decided that it was the seeker side, and then you have to actually be able to put yourself out in front of your brand and market and market and market, and that's what I did. The Super Bowl was one of those examples. Maybe 100x our traffic in the days that followed. One of the things that people maybe don't know is that it was the 4th worst rated commercial in the Super Bowl.
But it got the job done.
No pun intended. That's right. What's crazy is the idea that we were ironic. I think in a commercial in the Super Bowl, it's one of the only shows all year that you watch the ads like content. And I think people want to laugh. And so, the first image is a little boy saying, when I grow up, I want to file all day. There's no laugh in that. And I think this idea of being ironic is something that it's so important to find perspective, and that ad was the perspective that people needed to kind of shake themselves loose and think about going out and finding a different job, and so that's I think why it works so well.
Okay, and you come across as someone that is very intuitive. You trust your gut. Is that true? Do you really? What is your creative process? So I would say my creative process is I'm an idea generator, and I would say my superpower is I can see, and so I can see ahead, but I need excellent people around me that will believe and help me, and so a big part of that being able to see is then becoming a storyteller, Energizer.
and so being a storyteller and also having a vision, and then the name Monster is such a good example. Like, people did not like this name. My wife at the time didn't like the name. My employees didn't like it. My customers didn't like it. My probably most important customer said to me, not only do I not like the name, but people won't look for a job during the day while they're at work.
Wow.
And it turns out that the number one hour of the week to look for a job is at 1 o'clock on Mondays. So you make it through Monday morning, you go to lunch, you come back from lunch, and you're like,
there's got to be more here. There's got to be more. Okay, so that's where I was going. Like, you definitely have a vision, and you know in your gut what's right. And you weren't swayed by your wife. You weren't swayed by your customers. How did you stay true to that?
I always say it's lonely as an entrepreneur, and it's lonely because when you really have like a first principles idea, not something that was copied, not a little bit better cup or a little bit better water bottle, but a different idea. It's a lonely journey to actually get people to say, okay, that really is a better way, or that's really cool, but I don't like it. Is that first reaction? How do you get people to adopt something that's a new idea? And so I love that. That's
you
me.
A lot of confidence. I mean, and I'm sure that resilience coming to Needham, having to break into a new group as a middle-aged kid, doing what you did at UMass, and I remember that you were a performer. You had to rally the troops,
right?
And I'm sure that being successful in all of these areas led to great. So I'm always trying to tell folks, and especially our viewers, a lot of people have great ideas, but they lack the confidence. But I think that you illustrate beautifully is that you kept building that muscle, and you were like, I can see this, and then I'm going to. And I love the rallying the troops, people surrounding yourself with really smart people that can execute on your dream.
Yeah,
and you did it well, Jeff. My goodness.
I think there's a thing about confidence, though, because people say, oh, well, he has confidence. I don't have confidence, so I can't do it. I don't think it's that. I think it's about persistence, and I have like this extra gear. Like I'm digging weeds in the garden or whatever, and I'm exhausted, right? But I know I can see that extra patch of weeds, right?
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about like I live on a big property, and so there'll be 20 feet of weeds, and I'm 6 feet through it, and I'm like, okay, I've had enough, right? But I have this extra gear, and then I'll say, you know what?
I love that.
I'll just try it. Like, let me see if I can tackle that. And the next thing you know, I've gone through that next 15 feet of digging those weeds. And if I use that as an example, the idea and building an idea, it just takes this, like, come at it and come at it again. And I sometimes describe people's interests, and my interests are like an inch wide and miles and miles and miles deep. So whatever form of ADHD and dyslexia and all the things that I have in my world, when I package that all up, that's some secret sauce for me, is that I can do that deep, deep, deep dive.
Yeah.
So the thing I have to be careful about is what I aim at.
Yeah.
Because whatever I aim at, and I don't know, maybe a couple examples, I like Land Rover Defenders.
Yeah.
And so I bought one, and then I bought another one. Next thing you know, I have 5 of them, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should be selling some of these. I sell one for more money than I probably should, and the next thing you know, I'm building close to 100 Land Rover Defenders at a company called Rover Trophy.
So interesting. So now where we're at, and I want to certainly give enough time here to your new venture.
Yeah.
So now you're going back in again. So
yeah.
3 pieces to this part of your story. What made you say, okay, I got one more round here and I'm going for it?
Right.
What are you doing differently, and what are you doing the same?
So I think what's interesting is I don't say I have one more round.
Okay. Fair. Love that.
And so, if someone would ask me the way I think, I'm 64.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think you have to decide when you're somewhere younger than me, around 55, you have to decide, are you ageless, or do you act and kind of own your age? And maybe owning your age is actually, you have to do it because time passes, right? But my idea is that if you can be ageless, then people aren't saying, well, how old are you? They're saying, okay, let's talk about your idea. I have discovered through time that the way my mind works it's not on a cycle like other people, right? So I graduated from college when I was 40 years old. I learned differently, right? And so I have an idea, and I've had some of the ideas that are in the Boomband story, probably for more than 5 years, 10 years,
company.
right? That's
Yep,
that's our new mark for the Boomband logo.
Yeah.
And what's exciting for me is that I'll germinate these ideas, and people ask me, how do you come up with your ideas? And I have a folder in my iPhone that's for entrepreneurial ideas. And anytime I have an idea, I put it in this folder, right? And then as I come up with another concept around that, I'll put it right in the folder. And then I can start seeing that some ideas have just like 1 or 2 entries. Yeah. Other ideas have pages and pages. And so this idea around Boomband, which is the idea of building a new AI talent platform.
Okay.
Kind of a Monster 2.0 or LinkedIn Challenger. The idea of parts of the business that I think are broken. The resume is terrible today. It's a pile of keywords and performance statements. I don't even think it looks like us anymore. And I don't think it works very well, especially with AI, and everyone is putting their resume into ChatGPT. They're putting the job posting into ChatGPT, and it all starts looking the same, which is jamming up the applicant tracking systems, the ATSs, at the companies. And so something has to change there. It's sort of like melting down. I also think a job announcement, a job posting that just gets announced, then anybody can apply for it. Well, the reality is, because there's more supply and less demand, there's lots more people that are kind of flailing about saying, okay, I'm just going to apply to everything. And so what's happened is it's just created a big mess, and it's not good for the job seekers, and it's not good for the companies.
Yeah.
And so I have some ideas for how to transform those things. I'm building right now, so I can't tell you everything.
Okay, very exciting though.
But the idea is that we're building a new business that's going to be a destination for seekers. We call them players.
Okay.
And there's an arena that puts you at the center and allows you to find peers, work on your mentors, to find people that are interested in your hobbies, and also to find companies that are interested in you. So it's going to be a jobs component, but there's also going to be great networking and ways to meet other people, which I'm excited about. Introducing
Fantastic. And I guess just to reframe the question I asked you earlier, you are we chatted, you're having a great life, you have beautiful property, you have a lot of interests. My goodness, Jeff, I don't think you sleep. What was it that said, I gotta do this thing?
ChatGPT came out in November of 2022, and the older version I wasn't aware of, so it was ChatGPT 3 came out, and the kind of traction that it got really caught my attention, and I started playing around with it, and I started saying, I think maybe the tech is at a spot right now where it's good enough, has good context of the English language, and can actually build a new matching engine that would make it so that I could transform the business from the old way of doing it to a new way of doing it. And so that was kind of the genesis. That was my kind of sight line, that if the tech was right, and I've got these ideas, and I just couldn't believe that the market is kind of stuck in this kind of profit margin, profit collecting of an older and older and older idea. And so that was the genesis for why I decided to start again.
Awesome. And how can our viewers follow your story? How can they find you? How can they follow the Boomband story?
Boomband.com. Right now, it's just one page, and you can sign up for our Backstage Pass, so you can be one of our people that's trying the new products, and I would encourage you to go and sign up for that. Jeff@boomband.com is my email. I'm very open to entertaining people, just reaching out directly. I'm on LinkedIn. Just put in Jeff Taylor and Boomband, you'll find me. And as we were talking about earlier, I spend, I don't know, probably an hour and a half every day working on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, and so I'm actively sharing the ideas ahead of our launch, which will be late fall and into Q1 of 2026.
Awesome, and I do think another one of your superpowers is connecting, because I read your posts. They're really well done, and they come from your soul. They're very, so I really encourage all of you to follow Jeff. He's got a great story, great ideas, and I know that you're interested right now, especially in this period of what people are thinking about all of this, so that's great.
You know, just for fun, we have a lot of parallels. It anchors around Needham. Needham was a wonderful experience for me, and I think the town is a great town, and I think the resources and the support for the people in this town. My mother was a guidance counselor here.
I knew both of your parents very well.
I just had we went to the Congregational Church, and I grew up in that setting. But I just had a head of HR come up to me and say that his guidance counselor was my mother, and said that it had changed the trajectory of his life, and that's my goal, to change the trajectory of millions of people's lives. And so, what a awesome way to connect.
Oh, we're so thrilled to have you back. And when I told Mike here at the Needham Channel, I got Chuck Taylor coming. It was just so great, because I do think that people love to hear the stories of everyone, but especially with someone that grew up and walked the streets of Needham. It's just so cool. So last question before we wrap up. What does living well mean to you?
I don't know. There are two things. I did some research with a guy that tracks centenarians and supercentenarians. And one of the things he said was, as he researched talking to people that were over 100 years old, that they have two things. They have good genes, and they don't smoke. Like those two things as an anchor. But then the main point of longevity was having plans. And so my answer is always in my life is to continue to put real plans together. There's a classic Gail Sheehy book, which is called Passages. And I'm dating myself with this book, but they talk about the sexual diamond, and that a man and a woman at about 8 or 9 years old are the same, and then they spread out, and they're very different at 45 to 50, and then they come back together. And there's some classic generational things that have changed in this, but one of the things I see at somewhere around my age is I see a lot more guys thinking about retirement and going floating around in a white boat, and I just don't want to do that. I have so many plans. So.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. We wish you the best with Boomband. We're going to be watching, and can we catch you back when this thing is launched?
Absolutely.
Can you tell us the success stories?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I said that'll either be a collector's item or a great coffee cup. So.
I think it's going to be a collector's item. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.